This is a problem. Please don't. Please don't. Please.
Courtrooms are supposed to be safe, a place where justice is delivered and order is kept. But sometimes, even inside those walls, things spiral out of control. Across the world, moments of violence have been caught live, moments where rage, vengeance, and desperation break through the system. These are some of the most shocking courtroom moments ever recorded. "43-year-old Shawn Stines shocked the nation when he turned a courthouse into a crime scene. On September 19, 2024, in Kentucky's Letcher County, police received frantic 911 calls reporting an active shooter inside the courthouse. When officers rushed to the scene, they discovered a devastating reality. Judge Kevin Mullins, just 54 years old, had been gunned down. Video footage later revealed what happened. Inside the judge's office, Stines and Mullins were seen arguing. The confrontation escalated quickly, and then Stines pulled out a gun. The first shot struck the judge, forcing him to dive under his desk, but Stines showed no mercy. He stepped forward and fired again, this time at point-blank range. The judge stopped moving. Yet before leaving, Stines fired one final shot at the unresponsive man, making sure his victim would not survive. Formerly the Letcher County Sheriff, Stines was soon arrested and charged with first-degree murder. In court, he pleaded not guilty, leaving the community stunned. The case remains ongoing, but the violence of that day has already left a permanent scar on Kentucky's justice system. A sheriff turned murderer, a judge executed in his own office. The question now is, what drove Shawn Stines to such a brutal act? Michael Marin was a wealthy man, an ex-Wall Street trader, a seasoned climber who once scaled Mount Everest, and someone who lived what looked like a glamorous life. But in 2009, that image began to crumble. His million-dollar mansion in Arizona went up in flames. Marin managed to escape by climbing out of a window in a scuba mask, but investigators didn't buy his story. Evidence showed he had set the fire himself, desperate to escape foreclosure and debt. He was charged with arson and fraud. Fast forward to 2012. Inside a Phoenix courtroom, Marin sat before the jury as the verdict was read.
Please read the verdict.
In that instant, cameras caught something strange. Marin put his hands to his face, swallowed hard, then reached for his water bottle. Moments later, he collapsed.
We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action, upon our oaths, do find the defendant, Michael James Marin, guilty of arson of an occupied structure. We further find this offense is a dangerous felony because the offense involved the discharge, use, or threatening exhibition of fire.
Watch closely. He was seating there and putting something in his mouth as soon as he hears the guilty.
Fire, a deadly weapon, or dangerous instrument. Yes. Signed by the foreperson. Is this your true verdict, so say you one and all?
Yes.
Before the judge could sentence him, Marin appeared to swallow the same hidden substance again. On live television, in front of the entire courtroom, Michael Marin convulsed and fell to the ground. Paramedics rushed in, but it was too late.
Your Honor, Your Honor, Your Honor. Now.
Now seeking fire around the suspect's down.
I'm over. Examine history.
The autopsy revealed the truth. He had swallowed a cyanide pill the moment he was convicted. A final, shocking escape from justice. What was supposed to be a sentencing became one of the most infamous courtroom deaths ever recorded. Siale Angilau. Inside a federal courtroom, Siale Angilau, a known member of the Tongan Crip gang, was facing charges related to racketeering and gang violence. His reputation preceded him, violent, unpredictable, and unafraid of authority. The trial began like any other. Prosecutors laid out their case, witnesses prepared to testify, and the jury sat in silence. But as soon as one witness, a former gang member, took the stand, everything collapsed in seconds. Without warning, Angilau leapt to his feet. He grabbed a pen from the defense table and sprinted toward the witness stand. His target was clear. He wanted to kill the man testifying against him. Gasps filled the courtroom. Before anyone could react, a US Marshal drew his weapon and fired 4 shots. The entire attack lasted less than 10 seconds. By the way, a lot of you ask how I put these videos together and how I keep track of all these cases. Honestly, I spend hours reading and digging through details, because I want to give you the real story, not just headlines. If you're someone who wants to go even deeper into these cases on your own, I left something in the description that I personally think you'll find interesting. No pressure, just if you're curious. Now let's get back to the case. Angilau collapsed on the courtroom floor as chaos swept through the room. Lawyers shielded themselves, jurors were rushed out, and the witness he tried to kill was left frozen in shock. Later, the US Marshals defended the shooting.
Boom, 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 and then boom, 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 boom.
Saying it was the only way to stop what could have been a deadly attack. Angilau's family would later claim excessive force, but the truth was clear. He had turned a federal courtroom into a battleground. For everyone inside that day, it was a chilling reminder that when gangs are involved, even the halls of justice can't guarantee safety. In 2012, inside a Brazilian courtroom, chaos erupted during what should have been a routine trial. It all began with a dispute over something as small as a missing donkey. That argument between Francisco Calamariano de Moura and Francisco Alves turned violent when Moura shot Alves. Alves was rushed to the hospital, but sadly he didn't survive. Moura was arrested, and his trial followed. But what no one expected was what happened next. During the proceedings, Alves' 27-year-old son, Cristiano Alves Terto, had secretly smuggled a gun into the courtroom. At first, everything seemed calm, until Terto suddenly moved toward the front where Moura was sitting. His sister tried desperately to hold him back, sensing his intentions, but she couldn't stop him. Terto broke free and charged forward. Moura noticed the commotion and tried to hide behind the judge's desk, but Terto followed him up and opened fire. He shot until his gun ran empty, then continued striking Moura with the weapon before making a run for it. Miraculously, Moura survived after being rushed to the hospital, where he made a full recovery. Terto, however, was later apprehended and now faces attempted murder charges. It was a shocking display of vengeance, inside the very place meant to serve justice. Aubrey Trail. It was November 2017 when the search for Sydney Loof, a 24-year-old woman from Nebraska, ended in tragedy. Her body was found dismembered, scattered in garbage bags along a rural road. The suspects, Aubrey Trail and his girlfriend Bailey Boswell. Prosecutors accused them of luring Sydney through a dating app, then killing her in a twisted plot. The trial was grim. Every detail, the planning, the brutality was laid bare before the jury. But what no one expected was what happened inside the courtroom itself. As witnesses described the murder, Trail suddenly stood up. His face red with rage, his voice booming, he shouted, "Bailey is innocent and I curse you all!" And in that same moment he pulled a blade across his own throat. Gasps filled the room. Blood poured down his shirt as deputies rushed to stop him. The courtroom turned into chaos. Jurors horrified, the judge calling for order, officers trying to save his life.
Bailey is innocent, I curse you all.
Stop recording.
Trail survived the attempt, but the spectacle only deepened the dark shadow hanging over the trial. During his court appearances, Aubrey Trail revealed disturbing details about the night Sydney Loof lost her life.
You know, she was in desperate straits, I guess is the right way to put it, and I'm sorry to say I played on that. Sydney Loof died that night. Later down the road, I come up with a story to try to protect me and her, you know, mostly her, but because it was only me, Bailey, and Sydney there the night Sydney died.
What did you use to dismember the body?
I used a saw that it's similar to a hacksaw blade, but it's I call it a curve saw. On hindsight, it was a really bad decision, but it's one I own. I mean, I did it. I have to live with it.
Before sentencing, Trail addressed Sydney's family, but instead of apologising, he refused. He said an apology would be an insult after everything he had done. He admitted he wouldn't ask for forgiveness either, because he didn't believe such a thing existed for a crime like this.
First, I would like to say that even though I have to direct my statement to the court, I understand that it's not for the court, it's for Sydney Lou's family. And I also want you to know that my attorneys could only defend me on what I told them. And I think they did a great job at that, but they could only work with what I told them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I guess last request is, I don't want to do this like a coward. Is there any way that I can come to that side of the table and face the Lou family when I read this statement to them?
No, sir, you need to stay where you are.
Yes, ma'am. I am writing this down so that I don't leave anything out, as this will be the only time I get to address Sydney Lou's family. I realize that nothing I can say here today will change in the least what I did to Sydney 3.5 years ago. I won't say I'm sorry, as that would be an insult to you after what I've put you through. And I won't ask for forgiveness, as I don't believe there is such a thing. I doubt that there is such a thing as closure in a case such as this, so I won't pretend that I am doing that. I am only doing what I should have done 3.5 years ago.
In the end, the jury found him guilty of first-degree murder, premeditated and deliberate.
Do find the said defendant as to the charge of count 1, murder in the first degree, guilty of murder in the first degree by purposely and with deliberate and premeditated malice.
His girlfriend, Bailey Boswell, received life in prison. But that shocking moment in court, the curse, the blood, the desperate act, remains one of the most disturbing things ever witnessed inside an American courtroom. Byron David Smith. Byron David Smith was a retired security engineer, a quiet man who lived alone in his Little Falls home. But inside, paranoia was growing. He believed his house was being targeted, broken into multiple times before. On Thanksgiving Day, Smith decided he wasn't going to be a victim again. He parked his truck away from the house to make it seem like no one was home. Then he went into his basement armed with guns, waiting. Not long after, 2 teenagers, Haley Kiefer and her cousin Nicholas Brady, broke into the house. They weren't armed, they weren't violent, but they had burglarized homes before, and Smith saw this as confirmation of his fears. He waited until Nicholas came down the stairs, one shot to the chest, another to the head. Nicholas fell and never got back up. Moments later, Haley followed. Smith shot her as well, and then, after she fell, he delivered what prosecutors later called a finishing shot under her chin. Warning, this 3D visualization was created by its original author, and it's based on real audio evidence from the crime scene. What you're about to hear and see is disturbing. Viewer discretion is strongly advised.
You're dead. Oh, sorry about that. You're dying. Bitch. Cute. I'm sure she thought she was a real pro. I feel a little bit safer. Not totally safe. I'm still shaking a bit, but a little bit safer. I refuse to live in fear. I am not a bleeding-heart liberal. I felt like I was cleaning up a mess. Not like spilled food. Not like vomit. Not even like diarrhea. It's the worst mess possible. In some tiny little respect. I was doing my civic duty. Because the law enforcement system couldn't handle it, and I had to do it. I had to do it. They weren't human. I don't see them as human. I see them as vermin. This bitch was going to go through her life spoiling things for other people. Thieving, robbing, drug use. It's all fun, cool, exciting, and highly profitable until somebody kills you. Like I give a damn who she is. I'm sorry. So much regret. I try to be a good person. I try to do what I should, be friendly to other people, help them when I can. Try to be a good citizen, not cheat people, be fair. And because I try to be a decent person, they think I'm a patsy, I'm a sucker. They think I'm there for them to take advantage of. Is that the reward for being a good person? And if I gather enough evidence, they might be prosecuted. If they're prosecuted, it might go to court. If it goes to court, they might be found guilty. If they're found guilty, they might spend 6 months, 2 years in jail. And then they're out, and they need money worse than ever, and they're filled with revenge. I cannot live a life like that. I cannot have that chewing on me for the rest of my life. I cannot. I refuse to live with that level of fear.
By the time it was over, both teens were dead in his basement. When investigators arrived, they discovered Smith had recorded the entire incident on audio. His voice was cold, calm, almost rehearsed. At one point, he was heard saying, "I refused to live in fear. I felt like I was cleaning up a mess." At trial, Smith claimed he acted in self-defense, but prosecutors argued otherwise, that this wasn't defense, it was an execution. In 2014, Byron David Smith was convicted of premeditated murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. The case split public opinion. Some believed he had the right to defend his home. Others saw a chilling example of how paranoia can turn into deadly violence. Angela Simpson. Angela Simpson became infamous for one of the most brutal murders the city had ever seen. And unlike most killers, she openly admitted to everything, smiling, even boasting about what she had done. Her victim was Terry Neely, a 46-year-old man in a wheelchair. Terry was vulnerable, living with disabilities, and trusted people too easily. That trust would cost him his life. Angela lured him to her apartment under the guise of friendship. But once inside, the situation turned into a scene of pure horror. For days, Terry was tortured in unspeakable ways. Simpson bound him, beat him, and used multiple weapons to inflict pain. Reports later revealed details so graphic that even veteran detectives were shaken. Finally, she killed him, stabbing him multiple times before dismembering his body. His remains were discovered in a burning trash container. When Simpson was arrested, the public expected denial, excuses, maybe even tears. But what came next shocked everyone. In interviews, Angela smiled and laughed as she described the murder. She told reporters that Terry deserved it, claiming she targeted him because he was vulnerable.
Angela, I've seen previous interviews and with the police, and one of our colleagues talked to you once upon a time. You're very upfront.
Pretty much.
About talking about this killing.
Right.
You murdered this man.
Yes.
You tortured him.
Of course.
There is no ambiguity, and there is nothing you want to... In court today, you said you're not here to pretend to be remorseful.
Of course not. Why would I do that?
Are you remorseful?
Not at all.
Why?
Why would I be?
Well, why did this man deserve to die?
She even bragged that she wished she had killed more people. There was no remorse, no apology, just cold, chilling pride.
You claimed he was a snitch.
Well,
what proof do you have of that?
He told me he was a snitch.
He told you.
On many occasions. But that really doesn't matter. Why did you guys want to kill me? Phoenix wanted to kill me. What's the difference? Everybody has a reason to kill. My reason might not be good to you, but your reason wasn't good to me. So.
The incident, can you tell me anything about what happened during those 3 days while you were...
What do you mean?
No.
I took him to my house, walked him down the street. I don't know why the media acts like the motherfucker couldn't walk. He walked very well. Walked him upstairs, kicked his ass, and killed him.
And again, your belief is that he was a snitch because he told you... you claimed that other people had been killed in that same part. You had killed other people. Have you killed other people?
No, I've never killed anyone else.
So that was something, just talk.
Right.
In 2012, Angela Simpson pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, kidnapping, and aggravated assault. She was sentenced to life in prison without parole.
How do you feel about spending the rest of your life in prison?
You know, I got a lot of family in prison, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Yeah. I got many sisters in prison. I can't wait to see them. It's really not that much of a punishment to be sentenced to spend my life with my family.
And you don't want to talk about your past, but your lawyer said that, you know what, in sentencing you, the judge should bear in mind that you've had a really tough life.
I started being hospitalized at 10 years old. I have a mental history from 10 years old until present, so yeah.
When you say mental history, I mean, do you care that anyone feels sorry for you? Do you want anybody?
Feel sorry for me?
Yeah. Should the people who are watching this say because she had a bad childhood,
of course not.
Because she has mental illness?
Of course not. No.
That we should feel some sympathy for you?
No.
You would not have that.
I want no sympathy. No.
What then? Do you care what anybody thinks about Angela Simpson and what you have done?
I don't.
Her case remains one of the most disturbing, not only for the crime itself, but for the way she spoke so casually about it, making her a symbol of raw, unapologetic cruelty. On the surface, Paul Bernardo and Karla Homolka looked like the perfect young couple, attractive, charming, and seemingly normal. But behind closed doors, they were hiding a monstrous secret that would shock the entire country. Bernardo was already known as the Scarborough Rapist, a predator who had been attacking women in Ontario throughout the late 1980s. When he met Karla Homolka, instead of being horrified by his dark side, she embraced it, and together they formed one of the most disturbing killer duos in history. Their crimes included the kidnapping, torture, and murder of at least 3 young women. The most shocking detail? One of their victims was Karla's own sister, Tammy Homolka, whom the couple drugged and assaulted before she died. Bernardo and Homolka filmed much of their abuse on tape, creating disturbing evidence of their crimes. The videos revealed just how sadistic and remorseless they were. When the police finally arrested them in 1993, Karla struck a controversial deal with prosecutors. In exchange for testifying against Bernardo, she was given a reduced sentence of just 12 years in prison.
First of all, he killed Leslie because she could identify him. Okay, the reason why he started bringing him home was because he wasn't satisfied with just like raping him and leaving. He wanted to have it over and over and over again. That's why his ultimate fantasy was to have like sex slaves. To keep constant beatings. As hell. He wanted to abduct somebody, but there was nobody.
And when you came back, did you have lots of photographs to show people?
Photographs and a video.
And were these staged in the sense that he told you you're going to look happy and you're having a great time, or?
He didn't tell me that, but I knew to smile for a photograph or a video of him to hide an abuse. Like, I mean, every time we went to my parents, I was totally unhappy because, I mean, on the way there, Paul would be lecturing me. You know, if you say or do anything to make them think that we're not happy, you know, I'm going to kill you. You're going to get it. He saw her and pulled into the parking lot and he told me what to do. Like, I wasn't even kidding. What I was supposed to do is call over and ask her for directions and get out a map and get out of the car and leave the door open, and he was going to come around and then push in the car. So that's exactly what happened.
This became known as the infamous deal with the devil. Paul Bernardo, on the other hand, was convicted of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and sexual assault. In 1995, he was sentenced to life in prison without parole and remains locked up to this day. Karla was released in 2005 and now lives under a new identity, sparking outrage whenever her name resurfaces. Many believe she was just as guilty as Bernardo, but because of the plea bargain, she escaped true justice. The story of the so-called Ken and Barbie killers remains one of Canada's darkest cases, proof that sometimes evil doesn't hide in shadows, but wears a perfect smile. Michael Hernandez. Michael Hernandez was just 14 years old when he shocked the nation with one of the most disturbing crimes ever committed inside a school. On February 3rd at Southwood Middle School in Miami, Hernandez lured his best friend, Jaime Goff, into a bathroom. No one suspected what was about to happen. Teachers thought it was just another normal morning. But Hernandez had been planning something for weeks. He carried a knife hidden in his clothes and even wrote a journal, detailing fantasies of becoming a serial killer. Inside that bathroom, he attacked Jaime with horrifying precision. Multiple stab wounds, targeted to vital areas. When it was over, Jaime lay dead on the floor, and Hernandez calmly tried to wash the blood from his clothes before returning to class. It didn't take long for school staff to notice something was wrong. Hernandez was quickly arrested, and investigators uncovered his chilling diary. It wasn't just about Jaime. He had made lists of classmates he wanted to kill next. During trial, his demeanour was disturbing, smiling at times, showing little remorse. The prosecution painted him as a budding psychopath. Hernandez was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. But because he was a minor at the time, his case went through years of appeals. Even behind bars, reports described him as manipulative, dangerous, and obsessed with his violent fantasies. In 2021, while still serving his life sentence, Michael Hernandez suddenly died in prison at age 31. Officials reported it as a medical condition, but to many, it closed the book on one of the most terrifying cases of juvenile violence in US history. Few names strike fear in American crime history like Richard Ramirez, better known as the Night Stalker. Over the course of just over a year, Ramirez launched a reign of terror across Los Angeles and San Francisco. He broke into homes at night, armed with knives, guns, and sometimes just his bare hands. What made him so terrifying was the randomness. Young, old, rich, poor, no one was safe. Ramirez murdered at least 13 people, though investigators believe the real number could be much higher. His crimes included shooting, stabbing, sexual assaults, and brutal beatings. He often left behind satanic symbols, fueling an atmosphere of panic. The media quickly branded him the Night Stalker, and his image, tall, gaunt, with a chilling smile, became plastered across TV screens and newspapers. But what made Ramirez different from most killers was his complete embrace of evil. He spoke openly about worshipping Satan, even shouting "Hail Satan" during court appearances. He showed no guilt for his victims, only pride. The police eventually caught a break when a fingerprint from one of the crime scenes matched Ramirez's record. His mugshot was released to the public, and just days later residents in East Los Angeles spotted him. A mob of citizens chased him down and beat him until police arrived to make the arrest. In 1989, Richard Ramirez was convicted of 13 murders, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. He was sentenced to death and remained on death row at San Quentin until his death in 2013. His trial became infamous for the bizarre cult-like following he attracted. with women writing him love letters and even showing up to court dressed in black to support him. To this day, Ramirez stands as one of the most notorious serial killers in modern US history, a man who seemed to thrive in darkness and embraced his title as the Night Stalker. Daniel Linsinbigler. 19-year-old Daniel Linsinbigler wasn't a hardened criminal. He wasn't a gang member or a career offender. He was a troubled young man, suffering from severe mental illness, caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Daniel had been arrested after a bizarre incident, running through a motel naked, quoting Bible verses, and claiming to be Jesus. He was clearly in the middle of a mental health crisis, yet instead of being treated, he was locked inside the Clay County Jail. Other inmates described him as confused, terrified, and unable to understand what was happening. But his behaviour, yelling, refusing orders, and sometimes stripping off his clothes, drew the attention of guards. On March 12th, things escalated. Daniel was placed in a restraint chair after refusing to comply. He struggled, panicked, and shouted that he couldn't breathe. The guards responded with pepper spray, filling his lungs and burning his skin. But instead of getting him medical attention, they left him strapped in that chair. Within minutes, Daniel's body went limp. He stopped moving. By the time they finally checked on him, it was too late. Daniel Linsinbigler was dead. The official report claimed his death was accidental, caused by excited delirium. But for his family, the truth was much harder to accept. Their son hadn't been violent, he hadn't been a threat. He was sick, and instead of care, the system gave him death. Daniel's case sparked outrage, raising questions about how America's jails handle mental health. For many, it showed that the line between punishment and cruelty is far too thin.
That's it for today's video. Thanks for sticking with me all the way through. If you found it interesting, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Take care, and I'll see you soon.